Welcome to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast, mixed with British Murders podcast. Today,
It's an interesting mixing.
Today we'll be taking you down the long rabbit hole of trailer park murders and water park disasters.
Do you think there's any murders at a water park?
I don't think there's murders, but there's definitely accidents that happen. Like someone goes down the slide when they're not supposed to, and someone's at the bottom like, I'm looking for my glasses. And then they get a foot right to the fucking head.
What if you replace the water with oil?
Why would hot oil?
No, just like oil.
Why would you be? You would know the whole water at the bottom would be oil.
Yeah, no, it'd be a different color, obviously. But what I'm saying is, if you wanted to kill someone who was perhaps color impaired or blind, send them down the big kamikaze thing, oil instead of water, and then they'd fly right off and out the park.
You're very loud. You might have your mic turned
I'm
up
loud.
a little bit too high.
Maybe.
Yeah. Sounds like you're trying to kill me like the government does by using sound.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's a bit better.
Turn the gain down.
You're way too quiet now. This is stuff
Well,
you should have had figured out.
Dude, this is the setting that
You're
I've had on my.
professional podcaster.
I've had this setting on my mic
You're
since I got it. Is that too
interviewing-
loud for you?
If you turn down a smidge, a very small smidge. What do you say? A
Maybe-
crumb? Is that what you say over there in the UK?
No.
Crumb?
A smidge is fine.
It's a crumb of volume.
No one says that here.
Okay, sorry, didn't know.
That's mental.
What about do you think it's way too easy to kill people, or do you think it's way too hard?
I think there's a difference between killing people and getting away with killing people. I think killing people is probably quite easy.
Well, when's the last like massive serial killer?
What, here?
Well, anywhere.
Well, this is the thing. I think there's probably loads that we just don't know about.
I feel like you haven't really come across like a headline killer in a long time. You have individual, and then I guess you want to label that as like a school shooter can be kind of, I guess, one that's talked about. But like, is it just happening like discreetly? Like, is it more personal, or is it more like widespread? I would say, because like Zodiac killer, I mean, back it feels like in the 1900s or so, you had to worry about like 1950s, 1960s. You had to worry about like massive gang killings. You had to worry about like, I don't know, just a serial killer. You get in a wrong cab or something, they get kidnapped. Now it's like you hear about like, I don't know, like, do they make it harder to get, or people are just doing it sneakier? You know what I mean?
It's easier to get caught now. Think of they didn't bring DNA analysis until what, the late 80s. So this is why people in the 70s and 80s were so prolific, because they impossible to get caught. Well, not impossible, but unlikely. I'm telling you right now, especially in America, there'll be hundreds and hundreds of serial killers that people just don't know exist. Guaranteed.
I mean, we all might technically be serial. I think everyone's a serial killer. I just think, have you gotten to that point of snapping yet? Like, I think everyone has that breaking point.
Potential serial killer.
That one day you can't get mustard on your hot dog happens to be the moment that Johnny went bad.
Well, everyone's got the potential, and this is why we need law and order. Because if we didn't have law and government and rules, it'd just be the purge, wouldn't it? Everyone would just kill each other.
But can't the law be murderous?
What, like death penalty?
No, I mean, like, why is it that, like, we went to another country and we fought in a war, that's murder still, even though you're defending, but it's still murder.
I don't think it counts as murder when it's a war.
Or keeping score. I forgot. Thank you.
What?
Keeping score. You're like, oh, it doesn't count. I'm like, I guess you're not keeping score.
Yeah. So I think if so, if you went to the army, like Afghanistan,
I would never
and
go
you
to the army. I would go to
yeah,
the army.
army went to
Army.
the army, the
Army
armed
hammer.
forces.
Armed
If you
forces.
went, if you went to the army, and you killed some people, like in the Middle East or whatever, then you wouldn't come back and be tried for murder, would you? It's just casualties of war.
But what about the states where, like, if you commit murder in another place and they just take you back to serve justice? Does that mean they take you back to the Middle East to serve you would die. You would get your head chopped off. I've seen
Well, this
plenty
is
of
it.
those videos on the internet.
It's not murder, is it? If it's war, there's some legal loophole that means this is your job. This is government action or whatever. Government applied. They tell you to do it. If you kill someone, it's part of being in the army.
It's like my main issue with NASA. Like, did you hear about the recent guy from NASA that shot his neighbor?
See, we don't have NASA here. We don't give a fuck about NASA.
No, you guys have better systems in place like planetary defense, but you guys spelled
Do
defense differently
we spell it correctly?
with a C,
Yes.
not an S.
No. Do you know what's funny is when I have Bobby on my show, Bobby Holmes, we always have kind of a English versus American banter. So a lot of things that she says I find strange, and I'm often correcting her. So someone left a review of my show saying, and it was called So Arrogant with 3 O's. And it was 3 stars out of 5. It was going to be 4, but they marked me down to 3.
That was an American person that left that review.
It was, yeah. In my opinion, it was a Southern gentleman with a big beard like ZZ Top.
I don't know. It sounds like a hipster.
It's either a hipster, but he said, if you listen to this, he said, I don't have the exact quote, but it was something like, normally I love this show and the dude is funny, but he's so anti-USA and I'm really arrogant apparently. And apparently I've got an inferiority complex with regards to the US and the UK, which is ridiculous. And he said, maybe one day when I get a little bit older, bear in mind, I'm not old or young, I'm 32. I'm pretty much in the middle at the minute. When I get older, which makes me think it's an older gentleman, unless he thinks I'm younger than I am, could be a woman. I feel like it's a Southern gentleman. When I get older, I might realize that I'm being a bit silly. And then he went on Bobby's show and left her a 4-star review because of me. I thought that was brilliant.
I think people draw a line in the sand when they get defensive. Like, I can shit on the states, but then if you shit on the states, I just immediately start getting like, hold on a second. Like, it's weird. Like, I don't ever try and shit on another country only because I don't live there, so I don't know what you guys deal with, and it's like a home turf situation. Like, you can make fun of your family, but someone else makes fun of your family, you have an issue with it. But then it's like, it's weird because there's like a certain line. I guess it's just triggering. Like, there's some words out there in every dictionary where that just triggers someone, and Manchurian candidates them into some type of form of aggression where they're literally plotting on the days on the calendar of when they're going to snipe you out of your building. Like, there's people like that. And I mean, I think it's weird. The desensitization of social media has just completely thrown everybody through a freaking loophole where it seems like everything's like reality television. Like, everything's just a fucking 60-minute episode. Everyone's literally on the point. Like, honestly, I'm surprised there's not less people, or no, there's not more people staying home. Even with like the COVID, all the restrictions going up and everything like that. It's just like, I'm surprised there's more people just not wanting to go to the store and deal with other people. I mean, before you just didn't want to talk to people. Now it's like, you have to worry if you're going to get shot at like a bus stop or something like that.
In America, yeah.
It's probably happened in the UK as well, too.
Not with guns. I know what you mean. But yeah, I just watched a documentary today called The Instagram Effect, and it's on BBC iPlayer. It's a new documentary basically talking about influencers and how Instagram is the one social media app that causes more mental health problems than any other app out there, especially for younger people. And it's so ridiculous. Like, everything's a filter, nothing's real. People do stuff just to put a picture on there. And it's like, I'm worried about the Matrix becoming a reality, if people think it already is, but with stuff like the metaverse, I've just got this vision of people sat in the living room just with a VR headset on, hands crossed, and everyone's just living the life in this virtual world. No one's leaving. And then somehow the Matrix robots and aliens will sort of use our energy like the Matrix
Why is everybody
and
worried about
power
like,
the world.
I swear to God, everyone's like fears that I've been talking to have all been like aliens, they've been robotics, they've been all this type of stuff. I'm like, I'm more worried about like the idea of a small producer not being able to be a part of the system anymore. Like I'm seeing more corporations becoming bigger than we ever thought they possibly could be. Where I think one day Google, Amazon, all these corporations that are already doing partnerships and stuff are just going to morph into one giant blob and they're going to end up controlling the world like in an Illuminati aspect. But like everyone thinks Illuminati like cloaks and shit like that. I'm like, I don't think it's that. I just think it's like, it's what we all know. There's giant competitive businesses. And the best thing that these competitive businesses do is they fake fight in front of you to make it seem like you have to choose a side. I bet you if you find and trace the paper trail, the same person that owns Marvel owns fucking Disney or owns DC. There, what's the best way to hype up your views? If me and you on air right now started saying fuck this person to each other, saying fuck you, all this type of stuff, and then we go on our own podcast without each other, separately record an episode talking shit on each other, it's going to ramp up our views so people see the side. I saw this with there's an H3 podcast. I don't know if you know who that is. But they had this girl Trisha on there who has like apparently some mental health issues. But she's like back and forth, flip floppy, talk shit, does all this type of stuff. They used to do a show together. Then they both got into a fight, stopped talking to each other. They both did separate recordings of each other, talking about each other, saying, fuck that person, fuck that. Now there's this whole drama dispute that's been going on for months. But they get like, they're rivaling Joe Rogan in views in some sense, and they're still on YouTube. But I'm watching like this, all the comments of people like, yeah, I was never on her side, Team Ethan, all this type of stuff. And I'm like, it's like Twilight, but it got way more aggressive. Like we all knew the person during Twilight that would be like Team Jacob, Team Edward, Team Jacob, Team Edward. And then the one bitch grabs a book with a brick in it and fucking hits someone up the head and then starts curb stomping her. Like that's the crazy one. Like it's always one in the group. And if they say 1 in 10 people are serial killers, I think we got to bump that number up to like 4 and 6.
1 in 10.
Yeah. Isn't that the statistic?
I don't know.
I saw it off the back of a Laffy Taffy wrap. Did you know 1 in 10 people are serial killers? I didn't.
Lovely. So were you Team Edward or Team Jacob out of interest?
I don't really care to watch Twilight.
You know the hashtags.
I do know that because it was people were wearing them on shirts. It was like back in the era of "Come at me, bro." Like I wouldn't care if you would have got murdered if you wore a "Come at me, bro" shirt because like you're literally asking for it.
Yeah, it's like rap battles in it. Like Eminem and MGK had a rap battle, and all it did was create sales for them both.
Well, that's what Snoop Dogg said in his documentary. He talked about when he was like talking shit about killing another person, East Side versus West Side. And then after the Tupac thing, and then people started doing it. Like before, the raps were all just like fake disses towards each other. Ice Cube writing a song about Cypress Hill writing a diss song about Ice Cube, but it never got violent. Then it started getting violent. And now like we got to find the way to draw it back where it's like we're not actually like, if you're doing it for views and stuff like that, it's like what's more, I guess, listenable or entertaining for people. And sadly, the most entertaining thing is watching like Your Mama show where they're just cracking jokes on each other's mama, and then you find out it starts getting violent. I think that's also with Jerry Springer. Like that's an issue as well too. We need to fix.
Did you know he was born here, Jerry Springer?
Yeah. Did you know before he did the show, he was caught giving a check to a prostitute?
No.
Yeah.
Good on him.
He retired from being, was it mayor or some person up like high up in the government? And then he was caught with that scandal. Then he retired and started doing the Jerry Springer show, which was more personal interviews. And then they realized they could do fighting. And then,
we have a similar concept here. It's called Jeremy Kyle, the Jeremy Kyle show. I don't think it's going on anymore. It was more people from council estates and the rougher inner city areas. Inner city might not be the right word, but it was people that were dressed intentionally to look rough and ragged with rubbish clothes and no teeth, all that kind of stuff. Jerry Springer was more about fights and entertainment, ringing the bell and stuff. This was just like people having an expense at other people.
Do you think maybe a lot of this led to because every single type of conversation or any type of style of like interaction between two different sides has always been in a fight style manner?
Just think negativity sells, unfortunately.
Yeah, no
You could
shit.
be you could be the best podcaster, writer, anything in the world, but you won't get anything near the engagement as if someone who is controversial or starting an argument or says something that people don't agree with. Cancel culture. Negativity sells. It's just the way of the world. People, a lot of people like trolls, people who have a go at other people. They're not happy with their own lives. Typically, there's nothing going on with them. And they think, how can I bring someone down to my own level of misery? Oh, I'll try and say something on YouTube. Then you get people on YouTube that make videos, and all they're doing is making free content. Yeah, they might get it monetized, but it's still free for the viewer. Because how many people do YouTube Premium? Probably not many. You just skip the advert after 5 seconds or 15 if it's a full advert.
No, they give me an ad for the trailer, or they give me an ad of the trailer that I was trying to watch. So I'm like, I gotta watch it fucking twice. I had that happen. It was a
That's
2-minute
clever,
trailer,
though.
and they
That's
gave me a
clever.
2-minute ad that was the trailer of that thing I was trying to watch. I was like, what the hell?
See, clever, clever. But yeah, so you do that, and then people will go on there and just like tell you to kill yourself. And it's like, what?
Positive.
Excuse me?
Can you imagine if that was translated to Facebook posts where someone just commented on your wall, like, kill yourself?
I know. Well, it's too easy to spread negativity now. Like when they introduce the dislike button on YouTube, some people will go on there spiteful and think this video is doing too well. Huh. This like will change the percentages. And it's just pathetic.
I just want to be there the day that the internet was like created with all these like giant platforms that we use now. And I just want to be like, I want to see that person's eyes where they're like a little kid, like, or not little kid, but they're an adult, like ruffling a little kid's hair, like patting the top of his head, like, you're the internet. You're going to be a great place to connect family members. And it's like, I want that innocence. And then I don't think nobody thought it was going to turn into what it is, but I know I watched it. I mean, evolve. I was born with the internet base. Well, I mean, we had it when I was young, but I've watched it kind of evolve where there were people that were troll accounts. There were people that were ridiculous. And what those people used to be a lot of the times were radio personalities. And these radio personalities would be ridiculous. The evolution of radio is the same thing as the evolution of the internet. Listen to the radio now, it's not the same. It's just, it might be some type of stuff where it's like I think the only thing I've heard recently is they have this show where they call deadbeat dads who skip out on child support, and they call them like, hey, you just won a competition and it's going to be whatever their child support is. And the guys, they go, what are you going to do with that money if you answer these questions? And they'll try and help them win the questions. And the guy goes, well, what I'm going to first do is I'm going to pay for my truck. He goes, how about you give that money to your fucking, your kid who you
Mm.
haven't seen? And they do like that type of edgy shit. That's entertaining to listen to, but you also see like it's like Dr. Phil. It's like all these things. You have a giant, very big platform to really spark some change and two different sides having a confrontation, and you're not using it to the advantage. Instead, you're worried about fucking views. Your viewership is
Mm.
so sensitive. Dr. Phil could come out as a cross dresser. People are going to love him or people are going to want to cancel him. Like, if it's that sensitive, you might as well be trying to do some good in society by making two different sides really join together. Like the debates. If I was there monitoring the debates between Biden and Trump, I would be like, Trump, stop talking, let him talk. After he fumbles through his words for 45 minutes, I'm like, we've given you enough of the time. We're going to let him talk real quick. And then you write down what you're going to say and we'll pre-plan it.
I'm going to say Biden's not doing much talking these days. Bless him.
He's
Do you
rambling.
think what do you think about Biden? Well, first of all, here's a question I was going to ask you earlier. Do you think Mark Zuckerberg's a robot, a humanoid?
Why is everybody obsessed with robot? No, I just think it's his eyebrows. If he gets like darker eyebrows, he would look more normal.
He's an abnormal person.
Do you think he's a robot? Why do you
If
lick your
anyone
tongue like
is,
a lizard?
because I'm a lizard. I think if anyone, I was getting my breath back. If anyone is, it's him. I think, and the Queen.
I think something happened with the Queen recently. What was the newest news with the Queen?
She's just turned 70 years as monarch, I believe.
And wait, Philip was almost 100.
Philip was 90 something. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a massive age gap.
No, she's like 90s as well, but she's been queen for like 70 years now. It
She's
was
been
a something jubilee. Man, she's like 70 years, man, like the 40s. I think it must have been 1942. She became queen.
That's when Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Wait,
What,
that was
19,
1742.
I'm gonna say that's wasn't last century, pal.
I
I'm gonna
just
have
knew the song and it rhymed. The
I need
42.
to I need to check. I'm pretty sure it's the 70th and it's something there's something Jubilee Platinum or something.
But
Queen Jubilee 2022.
why do you think the Queen's a robot?
70 years. Not necessarily a robot, but I just think she must have some powerful drugs, man, because she's just like a perfectly normal functioning old little lady, bless her. Like I see videos of her and she's just so cute. She's like, "Ooh," she's cutting her Jubilee cake and she takes the knife, like holds it like Michael Myers, stabs it in the cake and starts cutting it down. And then she goes, "Oh, I've done my part. Someone else can finish it off." It's like, can't even be asked to fucking cut the cake, man. I'm
I
the
think,
queen. Do you know what I mean? Why am I cutting my own cake, motherfuckers?
do you try and like, I would say like look at her like mannerisms and stuff and trying to predict like what she probably thinks. Like for me, for that, what you just described, I bet you she has no idea what is going on when it comes to like position of power or ruling of what's going to get passed next. She's just kind of the figurehead where she's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think she
like,
has a lot of advisors. A lot
yeah,
of advisors.
but
She's just like the
I don't think she actually
face,
has a say.
don't you?
I feel like
I think
there,
no, everything that we have, like laws, has to get royal assent before it goes actually and becomes a law.
dude, you know
So
how many
whether
people at my work I get to sign a contract without them fucking reading them? Like, there's 7 initials, one final signature. They're all
well,
like
that's a
initial number 1.
contract. Yeah, but that's not a law, is it?
Yeah, but if the
That's not a
queen, if
law.
you just pass a bill to the queen, hey, can you sign this? Oh yeah, Sonny, sure. Would you like a Laffy Taffy? And then she signs it and fucking hands it over. She's not probably reading that
Uh,
shit. She knows she's gonna croak eventually. So she's just like, I'm not even worried about it. It's everybody else's problem.
she's got her own problems internally, I think.
She's dying slowly.
I'm talking about her son.
What's wrong with her son? I don't stay up on your news. I'm sorry. I'm more paying attention to the way my country's going down the fucking
Uh,
shitter.
typical American. Oh, it's all about America.
I'm trying to listen, but you keep harping on how Americans.
I want to message. You must know the whole Prince Andrew scandal.
Yeah, I know that Prince Andrew was involved in Epstein.
Yeah, he's her son.
Oh my God. I thought he looked older than her.
No.
Yeah. Did you see that last interview with him? He looked like horrible.
I mean, if you were basically going to be sent down for what he has allegedly done, I'd probably look older than the Queen as well.
I bet you. No, I don't bet that. I can't bet that because I don't know for sure. But I start to wonder. I think it's when you're that rich, you need to have restrictions on yourself. Like if you're looking in the market to buy a private island, you should probably get a psychological test. Like, so I have a survey I want to give you. Question number 1, if you buy one of these islands, what do you plan on doing with the island? Well, I'm gonna hunt children. Yep, that's the first question that knocks you off the fucking board. You can't hunt children, you sick son of a bitch. And he's like, all right, ask me the question again. I'm gonna ask you question number 2. We're gonna skip back to number 1. We're gonna hopefully you change your answer and we'll go back to it. Question number 2. If you were to buy per se what island, I'm just wondering what would who would you be transporting to this island? Large animals and small children. That's fucking number 2. It's the same goddamn question as number 1. We just rephrased it differently and you still stepped in the pothole. Just why children? I don't know. It's like
Well,
Sandusky,
why
for
did
instance.
you put the option on there for me to tick? Then don't set
There
the
was no
trap.
options. It was an open question. You just always think of children, but that's like with Sandusky. You remember the Sandusky scandal over here?
Uh-uh.
There was a football coach at Penn State who was diddling around with like a lot of the kids. And a lot of
Okay.
comedians had jokes that were like, oh, well, did the players play better? Like that was the joke.
Wow.
So after this all comes out, like the Penn State scandal with Sandusky, the assistant coach or whoever dies of a heart attack, like randomly out of fucking like a day or so. That's not a conspiracy. It just fucking happened. But the main guy, I think he went to jail, but a lot of the kids were like protecting him. They weren't like, so it was like, what is that syndrome where like a person is involved in like a murder or is a victim of a murder or some type of like horrible serial type killer thing and they have some Rothschild syndrome or something like that?
Don't know.
Rob, you gotta look that up. Come on. You should know
Not
this. You're
thinking,
my
not thinking,
fucking
not
go-to.
thinking of Stockholm syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. Stockholm syndrome. So they think a lot of these kids who are
Mm.
involved in this college campus might have had Stockholm syndrome or something like that. That's why they were all like, no, he shouldn't go to jail. The only issue is like he would go to his house like after all the scandal type stuff, and he would sit on his back porch, and he lived right behind an elementary school, and he would watch the kids play. Now, if you get caught with diddling kids, now I mean, college kids, but if you get caught with that, and then now your house is right, you need to fucking move. And they're like, why? What are you doing? And he's like, what? I just like to watch the kids play. It's like, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, no, don't do that. That's weird. That is creepy. I just like to feed the birds and watch the kids play. No, that's like that same shit.
But shouldn't they force him to move?
That's what I'm saying is he needs to move.
Yeah, but he's not gonna. It's like, who do you find sexually attractive? Well, children, obviously. Well, you live right by a school. Yeah, I know, it's great. Are you going to move? Not of my own volition, no.
No, you got to force him. You got to be like, you got to be
Why-
10,000 yards from a nearest child with a Hello Kitty backpack.
It's like they go, here's your restraining order, okay? All right, then. You're going to sign it? Yeah. There you go, mate. Are you going to stick to it? Yeah. Definitely. There you go. And you're going to move? Yeah, I'm looking all the time. I'm on Zoopla, it's a house website. I'm on Zoopla. I'm on Rightmove. I'm finding a new place in the next few weeks. Until then, just going to look out the window.
So fucking creepy. Do you like how Zillow has now became a place for people to look at like crime scene investigations?
What's that? What's Zillow?
Zillow is a house rental site, but they have 3D like walkthroughs you can do. And people have
Okay.
been using those to investigate some of like spooky haunted houses. Like there was one where a person, it's a
Mm.
famous TikTok, but a person was investigating a murder house that used to be like it's been on the market forever. Nobody wants to buy it because a dude murdered his whole family or something like that. But there's a
Mm.
bunch of secret rooms. And through the secret rooms, they lead into like little like secret like playrooms. It looks like a spot where a kid would go and hide, play in a house, like under like a crawl space type thing. And it was a secret room, but the door locked from the outside. And they noticed that this
Mm.
family had two daughters and one adopted daughter. And they think that the adopted daughter, when they went crazy, would lock her in that fucking room. And then it led to this whole like story thing. But people like, there are people that are online like investigating using Zillow and all this stuff. PIs, like private investigators, have taken off on YouTube. I don't know why. Like Tiger King really made that thing fucking popular.
Mm. I didn't like the second season of that.
What
I
they
thought
did a
was it.
complete 180 on Carol Baskins and decided to litter
I,
everything on the husband because he wanted to go to fucking wherever he went and fuck.
didn't he go to Costa Rica?
Let the guy fuck.
Costa Rica.
He was a
Let the
baller,
guy
dude.
fuck.
He was a baller.
Not think he got eaten by tigers.
He was bringing over what small clothing from like thrift stores and stuff and letting the girls wear the clothing just so they had like clothes. And he's like, yeah, you can stay here, but you know, every time I come by, you got to make sure you're on that bed and in the right position. And I'm like, I mean, I almost had Carol on the show, but she wanted money. I was like, no thanks.
She wanted money.
Yeah,
God damn.
apparently
I
doing
hate people like
interviews and
that,
money.
mate. I hate that shit, mate. That just shows that she's in it for the wrong reasons.
Sorry, I don't have a platform big enough to give her tiger donations.
I don't think anyone realistically should charge a fee for going on a fucking podcast.
I don't think you just have to even respond to the email. Like, I don't get, what do you get mad at when someone rejects you, or do you get mad when just you don't get a response?
I mean, I've not asked enough people to be rejected yet.
Well, you're asking authors, right? They have to come off,
Yeah.
some of them, as pretty pretentious.
It's different personalities, though. Because I spoke to Christopher Berry D, renowned true crime author. He's in his 70s, his early 70s. And he's real old school. He calls a spade a spade. He says what he means. A lot of people don't like him for that. Whereas I just think, I don't judge people. I just listen to him. It doesn't mean I have to agree with what he's saying or go, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because he got a little bit close to the wire when he was talking about people being raised in poor backgrounds, and a lot of them have no teeth and they're covered in tattoos and stuff. If I would have gone, yeah, you're right. What a bunch of wankers. Then that for me, I wouldn't do that. I can still have someone like that on the show and go, okay, because it's not me that's saying it. I'm just the neutral party here. If he wants to put that across, that's on him. But then take him, who's been in the game donkey's years and is an older guy. And I spoke to another guy. He's also been in the game years, but as a journalist rather than a writer. So now he's dipping his toe into the writing side of things. He was a lot more professional in the fact that he was to the point. It was a more formal interview. It wasn't just like a chat. It felt like I was chatting with a friend with Chris. Whereas the other guy, Stephen, it was a lovely chat that we had, but it felt more formal. And the back and forth was more formal as well. So it doesn't matter if people don't come back to me. I had one guy with a book coming out about Jack the Ripper, and I'm desperate to have someone on that's an expert, a ripperologist.
That's how I
And
am with JFK. I'm trying to get someone to talk about JFK.
There's been two people, excuse me, I've tried to get on. The first guy was recommended by a listener, so I reached out to him. Said, yeah, I'll come on. Emailed him again, haven't heard back. And then there's another person who reached out to the publisher. He came back and said, yeah, let me know what the details are. Went back to him. He's not come back. So it's just part of the game. I don't take offense at that. It's like people reach out to me. If I get a message off someone or a case request and I think I'll read that later and then I forget about it. It works both ways, really. I can't say, oh, what a prick. Because if he emails me now and says, oh, sorry, I missed your email, I'll come on this date. I'm not going to go, well, it's taken you 3 months to get back to me. Because people are busy, man. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. They don't have to say yes. There's no right for them to say yes. It's not automatic.
I would prefer not an answer rather than someone just saying no.
Depends how they say it, though. Because if they just come back and say, no, not interested. If someone came back and said, hi, Stuart, really, thank you for the opportunity. My schedule's really crazy at the minute, so I won't be able to do something in the near future. As and when things slow down, I've got your details. I could be in touch. Even though that's a nice way of saying I don't want to come on your show and I never will. I'd rather have, because that's personalized, isn't it? Because anyone can just look at something and go, nope, and just send. If someone's read it, you might not fit. Like I spoke to an artist, this guy in a metal band from where I'm from, Huddersfield, and he's into horror movies and stuff. And I was listening to his album one day. I thought, fuck it, I'll message him on Twitter. So I messaged him. I said, hi, I watched you back in the day at this small event in Huddersfield. I love the band and all this. See, you're into horror movies. I talk about them sometimes. Would you consider coming on? And he was a bit, I'm not sure. I said, look, no pressure. Come on if you want. When your diary eases up, come back to me. He's not come back to me either. But for some people, it's not their thing. I've got friends who have asked to come on and they say, look, true crime's not really my thing. Even though they do their own podcast. Say true crimes, I wouldn't know what to talk about. It's too out of my comfort zone. So it's like, okay, if you don't want to come on, that's fine. Have you had people that have come to you and said,
yeah, I know,
fuck off?
Well, it's funny because I've had a guest on, especially like a Joe Rogan guest. And then I've had, after I've messaged them, finally just get back to me after I just put up that person's episode. Where I was like, holy shit, you got that person? I was like, I'm not going to respond to you back. I'm not going to. It's been months.
Oh, so you've had people that have blanked you or have rejected you and then wanted to come on.
Seen the message and just never responded to it. And then after I have not messaged them back or like, hey, I'm still here. My offer's still on the table. I just put up an episode and they happen to follow that person. Mostly I do it out of spite. What I'll do is I'll look for the people they follow. And I'm like, all right, who's the top person you follow? This is my fucking guest. And then just do that. No, but it's mostly like people coming out of the woodwork after they see I get someone on and they're like, oh my God, you talked to him. I'll love to come back on. It's like, you didn't message me for fucking months, man. It's like, no, I'm more than happy just to read that and then not answer back to it. I just think people just want to piggyback on a lot of shit, which gets difficult. It's like, I'll talk to anybody. I think I've proven that with the amount of episodes that I have. Well, what I'm getting interested in now, and your Amazon tip is a very good one, not true crime stuff, but I'm getting interested in more, it's fiction. That's the real ones, right? That are based in reality. Yeah. I want to talk to fiction authors, and because you end up learning a story. Like before I was looking at documentarians, and trying to find people who are making documentaries about stuff like, social dilemma documentaries or stuff like that, where it's real possibilities of capabilities of things that we're dealing with that a lot of people don't know about. Maybe highlighting someone who's studying, like, that's why I talk to a lot of researchers. Got any research that's interesting that you find, like something about calcium deficiency in zebrafish? Like, what does that lead to? And it ends up leading to like a overall like coral shift or something like that. That's it's interesting, but like nonfiction stuff, like I get it. I love to talk like supernatural and all that type of stuff. It's interesting, but I also like to know like some real shit, like 9/11, JFK, all this type of shit. Like, what do you have that the public needs to see or know about, whether it's true or not? I want to fucking hear your thoughts on this situation because you definitely studied about the topic and it's information. I mean, you could have a information about fucking Rubik's cubes, the history of Rubik's cubes, but you got information about Bigfoot. Like, none of that's fucking useful because it has been proven that he exists.
Yeah, the people that go on, we call them clout chasers, by the way. You know, the people that piggyback on other people's fame. We call that chasing clout or clout chasers.
I'm aware we have the same term over here.
That's fine.
We're just bridged by a C. We're not bridged by anything else.
Just a C. But yeah, the author thing's cool. What I like speaking to people about, because I don't want people to come on and feel that they have to ruin, especially if it's a book that's not come out yet. I don't want people to come on and ruin the whole book so that people don't buy the book, because that would be counterproductive. What I like to find out is the actual process involved. So people come on and I'll say, you know, you could tell me briefly about your background. So this guy I had on, tell me about your time as a journalist. I'd just ask some random questions about, you know, cases he's covered, what the process is. I'm interested in how people do things that I'm not aware of. So with journalism, what's the step it takes from picking a story, covering the story, writing it, taking it to your publisher, having it edited, when it comes back and they need changes, what's the time frame, when it's published, what happens then? Same with writing a book. I like finding out, how did you first get published? What's the writing process like? What's the proof checking like? How many edits does it take before it's published? Because when I spoke to Christopher Berry D, he said that his first novel went through 3 different editors, because apparently editors have a high turnover rate at publishers. And the problem is, if one person edits your draft script or draft novel, should I say, even if it's nonfiction or fiction, they edit the whole thing to their preference. If they get fired and a new editor comes in, the editor, if you're unfortunate, will edit the editor's work. So if you've got your original script that gets edited, he gets fired. Another editor edits the first editor's work, he gets fired. And a third editor edits the second editor's work. Compare your original script to the final outcome, you wouldn't even recognize it.
Yeah. There's ghostwriters as well too, people that'll write fuck, I forgot what the name of it is. Ghostwriters are people that will write about something or write something for somebody. Like, the person has the idea and will just try and say the words and the person will funnel it through. So it's like having an on-site editor, and then that person will edit what that ghostwriting is. It just gets difficult because it's like eventually you start losing property rights to your intellectual property of the idea that you had. You end up getting phased out of it. And that's a lot of what we see today in today's world. You have people that are, getting hired for a job to edit something or do something like this, and that person takes that idea and then might get rich and famous off of it.
Well, there's a lot of plagiarism in podcasting, especially in true crime. There's a lot of big podcasters that openly, I say openly, they don't necessarily promote that they do it, but people know that they steal people's work. Because I'm in groups with a lot of independent podcasters, a lot of successful true crime podcasters.
Give me some examples.
Well, you see, when I listen to them, I don't really get involved.
I usually give credit.
Well, Well, apparently, there's a massive podcast called Crime Junkie.
I've heard
which I believe, which I think is hosted by someone called Ashley Flowers, I believe.
That sounds like a fake fucking name.
It probably is. Apparently, because it won't just be her, she'll just be the voice, I assume. This is the thing people don't understand about podcasts that are mainstream, is the person who is the voice of it, whether it's a celebrity or someone that's just been doing it for years. Generally, they don't write it, they don't edit it, they don't produce it, they just sit there and say the words that they're being given. But the research is often plagiarized from someone without giving the source. Of course, people don't know that, and they think the original person is the actual big podcast. And ironically, they think the smaller podcasts are plagiarizing the bigger ones. But the amount of people I know that in small podcasts that you probably never heard of, a lot of people won't have ever heard of, that do ghostwriting for the bigger podcasts. And it's just, they know they do it. Their peers know that they do it, but their name isn't on that work. That's different between, like, if you're reading a book by someone who was a criminal or a former whatever, former judge, let's say, and he doesn't know how to write. So he works with a writer. That's different to saying Mr. Smith with Mr. Jones. A ghostwriter would be Mr. Smith, but it's written by Mr. Jones, but his name's not on there.
Well,
It's being put forward as if Mr. Smith's written it.
that's the most difficult part, especially when you get on like a TV show or something like that, is when you watch Jimmy Kimmel or you watch any of these people on like Fallon or any of that, they have a stage room of writers that are writing all their jokes and bits out for them. Like that's, I don't think I've really ever seen anybody besides like Craig Ferguson. And I think he even had a writer at some points as well too. It just gets difficult because it has to be funneled through. And then eventually it gets harder to create your own stuff. Like for me, I just recently asked someone to be a booker for my show where I could start getting, people through. I started doing emails. I think I sent out 1,000 yesterday to like high name people, like people that I would never even think that would do the show. But since I've had a couple on already, I was like, might as well shoot my shot and see what I get back. You know what I mean? Cast out a wide net. So I just asked someone, I was like, hey man, like you used to book for this alien show, book for my show. And then they're like, I mean, I could send you their profiles. I was like, no, like send emails out and then send them my way. Like I always like to do it myself. It was always me messaging rather than somebody else because I want to see who the guest is. And typically there's red flags that I have too. Like usually if I see crazy eyes or something like that, you're not coming on my fucking show. And it even gets, well, it even gets harder when you're talking about topics like indigenous studies or gender studies or things of that sort, because they're so fucking ramped up where it's like when the white man came over and did all this, and then you just like, I'm sorry. And they're like,
white man.
yeah, they're like, you should apologize. And it's like, what? Like I've had that happen before. And it's like, that's not everybody. There's a lot of that I think is also having a kid. When you have a kid, let's say one of these high school people or college people that are all ramped up with the rainbow colored hair, whatever they want to have, that just seem like they want to get into an argument and there's a 4-letter word for them, but I'm not going to say it. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. Fill in the blank. This is out of the blank. Fill in it. But it's funny because as soon as they have a kid, you notice the shift where it's like, oh, I don't ever want to. I used to think men were toxic and bad, but now that I have my own little boy, I realize no, it's not all men. And it's like, yeah, it's not all men, but you broad brush it because every fucking interaction you ever have, you really want to know if a guy really truly cares about you is the fact of when they're actually trying their best to be on their best behavior. If they just start dancing with you and grinding on you because you like them because they're hot, then it's not a relationship that you're going to be going through. So don't be surprised if they act like how they act. A lot of people see this and they go, this is all of them. This is all of that. It's like, no, it's never all that. It's the same thing with conspiracies. It's all that shit. Conspiracies are good to a point. But when it starts to become violent, you have an issue. The issue is that the door opens up when you start researching into this stuff, and it all boils down from a mistrust and the way that people talk to other people. If I told you right now, Stuart, everything you have just told me about book and authors, this is stupid as shit, and you don't have any proof behind your facts, you're going to be like, Robbie, what the hell, man? Yes, because I'm now devaluing you, and anything in society, whether it's on national television in presidential debates or any type of show, profits off of devaluing another person, making them look fucking stupid. Heated arguments, top 10 moments of most argumentable things. It's all about making someone look stupid. And I think there's a better way to do that. It might not be as watchable or viewable, but if really people care about the content, you don't need to worry about the person who's speaking it.
Do you ever get people that are quite demanding when they agree to come on? So
no, they'll say they don't make it to my show then.
So if they said, I explicitly don't want to talk about this.
Oh, that's not bad. I probably won't even bring it up. But if I've had someone say like we're going to do it this, and this is how I want it, and you can ask this and this, I'm like, nope, pass. Hardcore pass. My fucking hero I passed on because he gave me like, send me a list of questions. I'm like, well, it's conversation. No, I'm going to want questions. I'm like, sorry, I just can't. I can't. When I start being talked down to, I have a large rebel side of me that just goes, I want to put my fucking middle finger in my own ear and tell you to fuck off.
Never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that if you send out, say, 100 emails, do you ever find yourself overwhelmed and overbooked? Like if everyone randomly starts coming back? Because I found that I only sent 3 emails out the other week just to try this new theory with the Amazon and the authors thing. All 3 came back the next day, and I was like, shit. Like for you, every episode has a guest on, so it might be easier for you. But for me, I'm like, shit, where can I fit this person in? Some of them have release dates that you can't release before, or they want to release it on the release date, and you think, fuck, where does that get in with my schedule? So do you ever find yourself overbooked?
No, because I always write them down. Like I have a thing right here written down, and I think it's for next week. I have 8 on Monday. So
What,
me
8 calls?
no, 8 Zoom
8
podcasts.
Zooms? God damn.
That's nothing. Though. I think my max is 14.
So
Then I
you
don't have
must
to
have
worry
a,
about it all week, so it's all good.
that's true, but you must have like a maximum time limit, like an hour each.
I
Surely.
try and space and been doing an hour. I see. I'm so booked back right now. Like this episode from when we're recording it is probably not going to be up until next month. Like I'm that
You
far
don't
back.
do you release every day though? Every other day?
I used to do every day. Then I hit 1,000. Then I don't release on weekends now. And that weekend, surprisingly, really like gives me a lot of free time, so I can record less during the week. It's a less of a workload, which is more interesting. But if I get a top name on the show, like someone who was
Mm.
on a Rogan or something, I usually put their episode that night that I recorded. Just I don't
Yeah,
want
you
them
bump it
turning it
up.
around.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. What do you do with your editing though? Because if you're editing 8 interviews or 8 chats, conversations, as we call it, and they're an hour a piece, because I know you don't really edit fuck all, especially when I come on.
I do.
But do you really?
Mostly when there's a lot of people that overlap when we speak. Like I eventually like there are people that always just go, yeah, yeah, or do something like that. So when I'm doing the thing, I do audio separate as well too. So then I put our audio
Mhm.
tracks with the video since video is on Spotify now, and I'll clip out that part so it doesn't affect with you listening. So it sounds like it all flows together if you're just listening. But if you watch the video, you see them say yeah, but there's no sound coming out.
I know exactly what you mean. I
I'd
do
probably
the
spend an
same.
hour or so editing, depending on how slow my computer is, but I got it down to a science after doing so many episodes.
But what about exporting though? I find exporting takes the longest amount of
I
time.
usually take a nap at that time. When I export, it's like remaining time, an hour and a half. I'm like, fuck. All right, I'm gonna go take a nap.
So can you put video on Spotify then
Yeah.
for all your episodes? How
I
does that work?
you just do I do it all video when I export the file, it's video. So I just put the video on there. Usually it only took the audio
Okay,
from the video, but now I guess I qualified for it. I don't know if you do. I don't know what their
not sure.
qualifications things are, or I did some type of thing, but
Not sure. Who do you host with?
Anchor.
Okay, because they're part of Spotify, right?
I can think
I
so. They have a
I think
partnership.
Spotify.
I don't know
Yeah, they
everything.
own them.
I'm everywhere. I don't know. I thought I was only on like 8 platforms in YouTube, and now I'm like on 30 different platforms. I'm always getting some type of fucking email. Some dude commented on my 9/11 episode, and was like, "You guys don't know shit. You two don't even know anything about 9/11. You don't know about this type of thing and this type of thing." I was like, first of all, I commented. I was like, "You obviously only made it 10 minutes into the episode because there's a total of 5 people in this episode in total. It's a 5.5 hour episode." And I go,
Mm,
before you comment, maybe watch it. And then he comments, he goes, and then you haven't even talked about the shoot down order that Cheney had. And I was like, if you go to the halfway mark, I bring it up. Like you just
mm.
got to watch it before you comment. But like you were saying about the review that you got, people just, they hear something, they get triggered and they feel like they have more information than the other person. And then it's funny because then they comment like, how about you have me on the show to talk about it? I was like, no, I'm not giving you a fucking platform, you fucking commie.
That's what they want. They want a platform. It's how arrogant do you have to be to take personal offense from someone who isn't even talking to you?
Well, it's
I
free
think that's
content.
it's quite arrogant though, isn't it? To think everything else is funny, but that relates to me personally, and I find that very offensive. I am not happy
It's
because that affects me.
well,
Quite
listen,
arrogant, I
if
think.
you pay for a movie and you hate the movie, even that's kind of sketchy territory. But this is it's free content. You're choosing to listen to it, and you feel the need to make a comment on it.
This is it. I just think the amount of things I've watched, like documentaries, like the second season of Tiger King. Like, there's a show Ricky Gervais has done called Afterlife season 3. I watched one episode and I didn't like it, so I just didn't watch the second episode. I didn't go online and tweet, "This is the worst." I might tell my friends if they say, "Oh, have you watched Afterlife?" And I'll say, "Oh, I didn't really like it for X, Y, and Z reason," and they'll say, "Oh, I liked it for A, B, and C reason." And I'll go, "Okay, fair enough. I didn't like it."
We were talking off air about this, but I wanted to bring this up. What do you think about the paranormal stuff? Like, what are your thoughts on that? You think mediums are real? You think mediums are bullshit? You think people are just? Do you think they are thinking that they're like? Is it a psychology thing that like they think that they're actually doing something, and then people just have said that they are, but really it's kind of like you want it to be there, so you're thinking that it's there.
I think I don't want to put it out there that I'm calling all mediums liars or that they're deceiving people, because they might believe that they can speak to people. But I think a lot of it, we have a guy over here called Darren Brown. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's not a medium per se, but he calls himself a mentalist. He's a bit of a mind control expert. So he could talk to you and get like, he might nod his head subtly and you might start agreeing. He does loads of shows over here, experiments. So he'll set up a massive warehouse as if there's like a banquet event going on, and everyone's an actor apart from one person who signed up to the show months before but doesn't know they're on the show. So what he'll do is he'll start planting seeds in there. So if you go into the kitchen and he'll say, "Oh, we've run out of vegan sausage rolls," for example, was on one of his shows. So the first thing he gets the person to do to see if he'll do it is the chef says, "Oh, we'll just put these normal pork sausage rolls in the vegan thing." It's like no one will know, and the guy's got a chance then to say, "Oh no, that's really wrong," or just to go along with it. But if he goes along with it, that's the first. It opens a door to being sort of susceptible to further control without you really. It leads to, are you going to push someone off the top of a building or not? It's really good. I think it's called The Push or something. But he's really good at that stuff, Darren Brown. But bringing it back to mediums, I think a lot of it is people who are grieving, people who are mourning, hearing what they want to hear. It's probably part of the grieving process to think it's not over. They can't be alive one second and not alive the next second. There must be something in between because I can't deal with losing that person right now. So if someone's there saying, yes, they are speaking to you, then people are going to latch on to that. So I'm not saying that mediums do that to get money off people. Perhaps they want to try and help people who are grieving by going through this. Personally, I don't think we can speak with people who have passed.
What about a person that says they died and then came back and they saw heaven? Because I'm trying to get people who speak about near or yes, near death encounters where they talk about like either being close to death or dying and then coming back.
Well, the problem with that is you can never disprove what they're saying.
Yeah, you can.
Not really.
You die and then you come back and you're like, I fucking saw exactly what you described. I saw the fiery gates of hell. And you're like, I didn't see hell. I saw heaven. And it's like, oh God, I need to make better life decisions.
So I saw heaven. Oh, you saw the big clouds? No, I saw fire. I saw heaven. No, that's hell. That's my heaven, motherfucker.
Turn to a Manson.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think paranormal is the only thing like in movies and stuff that actually scares me, because it's a scary thing. I think it's scarier than gore, films like Saw and Hostel.
Well, you
That
saw my
stuff.
film, right?
Yeah.
You know, my buddy that was asking that radio thing and a voice said no. I mean, is it your brain morphing the words to make the thing say no, or is it an actual thing? I mean, he has plenty of stuff where I listen to it. I'm like, that's fucking really creepy. I mean, is it possible it's like a leftover energy? But when it comes to psychic mediumship, there's just a lot of phonies. And I think that's the same thing with like the UFO community. There's a lot of people that just want to be special and they necessarily are kind of ruining the topic in a sense and making it seem like it's a hoax and bullshit. But it's so hard because without any substantial proof, you know, I mean, I definitely think we should be worried about there's other things out there, but I don't think they've came here yet. I think to say that maybe not designing funding to be able to protect it, I think is stupid. But if you need funding or someone's willing to put $1 billion on the line, they're not worried about the hope of you maybe coming across something. They want to see legit proof that it's here and we need to pay attention to this.
It's like God. No one can ever prove that God exists.
Well, God doesn't
And
know where God came from.
yeah, people still think the world's 8,000 years old.
Younger theory. I believe more in the younger, driest theory that the Earth is like close to another global reset.
Maybe.
There's that's the issue that I've been getting in with, like why I like to talk to a lot of researchers and I'm trying to get people to talk about their theories. Is like the stoned ape theory is that we evolved from apes, and the way that led to their brain increasing and turning into this evolutionary period where the brain was evolving was that they were eating psychedelic mushrooms. Like you find a mushroom or something on the ground, they would eat it, and then this psychological psychedelic effect enhanced our evolution to become the people that we are now. I mean, it's a good theory. But the younger driest theory, there's a guy who was on Rogan talking about it, and it's been talked about multiple times. And it's like with weather changing, it never snows like it snowed here, and it fucking snowed. So definitely climate change is real, but we're thinking climate change is overall overheating. Maybe it's a global freeze, like Snowpiercer, where everything just freezes over again. They found a mammoth with food still digesting in its stomach and a rock hard penis. Now, the issue with the rock hard penis is that only happens when you suffocate. See, if you die by suffocation, you immediately get an erection.
Is that
I
why
don't,
people do
yeah.
auto asphyxiation,
And that's why sometimes it goes bad.
masturbation?
Yes. But when they found the food frozen in his stomach and that, they realized that he suffocated to death, but it was instant. Like it was an instant freeze. He was frozen and the food was still digesting in his stomach. So they're like, there's probably periods of time where the whole thing just froze. And what they think with the younger dryas is that the earth has reset multiple times. And it's not like we might be close to another reset. And their idea is going from this planet to another planet to keep the human race going instead of a whole another reset. Because the only thing that survived back then was a species of fern. So it's not like all life gets wiped out. It's just which one's going to be the survivor. It's kind of like if a nuke went off. Depending on where you're at, you could survive depending on how close you are to the blast. Where's it at? You know, that where you are in your house. Like that's the whole type of thing, is that this is just like another earthly reset. Because I think this earth has been around for, I mean, a very long time, and it'll be around a long time before us. But I think all that's on a basis of luck. The fact that an asteroid hasn't hit our planet, and every time you hear about the encounters of another planet's gravitational pull taking that asteroid away from Earth, we didn't even know about it. Like it was in October 2017 was the last one, like the size of a fucking, like I forgot, it was like 100 football fields, but it was pulled in by Venus's gravitational pull. And it like just missed us. And it's like, yeah, well, now we have devices that can block those things. That's why we have planetary defense, which is not extraterrestrials. It's more of asteroids and types of things floating around in our solar system that land. I think it's the International Space Station is going to crash into the ocean in 2042. Because you only can send things up for a viable amount of time. And that space station has been up there for so long, it's got to come down.
Some people believe it's not even up there.
I mean, some people believe the earth is flat.
Yeah. Have you had a flat earther on?
Yeah, one of my close friends is one. we have a 3-hour unpublished episode where I'm sitting there like, what are you? Because he's getting like so into it. And then he ended up coming back on again and we talked about it, but it was less. But that'll be a me episode where I'll save that on here.
3 hours. Is it just him talking shit?
Well, it's him saying, you don't fucking know. And I'm like, okay, I get it. If you watch some of those videos, it just links in with Hitler. And then I think that's where it starts to lose me.
I found out that white supremacists say 88, and that means Hail Hitler.
I didn't know that.
And I assume it's because H is the 8th letter in the alphabet.
Possibly.
It is the 8th letter.
What about the idea that Hitler was being drugged to do his speeches? They say they were giving him cocaine and all this, and that's why he was so rambling and arrogant. Yeah.
It was pretty intense. Maybe. Fucking hell, if I was locked in a bunker and the world was coming down, you might have a bump, might you?
Yeah. I mean, if you're in a bunker, though, he wasn't in a bunker. He was just fucking.
Well, for his speeches, yeah. Maybe he was nervous.
First person on a microphone. That's literally like, that's like the power. Like, that's what people who want censorship, that's what they look at us like. if you're a podcaster and you're just talking about things that they feel like they know more than you on, they look at you like that. And I'm starting to see that now. Talking with a lot of people that have a different view than things that I listen to. And I'm like, oh shit, like I see it from if I'm really invested in like a guest, Brian, who was I was telling you was argument with Joe Rogan. I was seeing it from his perspective, where I was more in defense of him than Joe. And before I was on the other end of it, but now that he's a guest, I'm feeling like I need to see it from his side and everything. And you start realizing it's like, yeah, a lot of this is like seen as like you're trying to protect people from bad information. But what information like during this pandemic has done a complete 180? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't really listen to Rogan anymore. I used to listen to him all the, because he's got such long episodes.
I used to listen to the Backstreet Boys, and now I don't listen to them anymore.
Wow. Why not?
Because Backstreet back, all right.
Can't beat a bit of them. You can. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's good to hear both points of an argument, and it's difficult, especially if someone is on someone else's show. Generally, it's the person who hosts, it's his audience or her audience or their audience. And there's a natural bias there anyway, because anyway, he's been in the media recently, right? About all his anti-vaccine stuff. Is that why
no
people are trying to cancel him? Is that not why?
Took a compilation of all the times he's used the one letter you don't use, the one word you don't say.
The racist one.
Yes. Someone took a well, it's resurfaced and everyone's used that against him. But I'm like, I've watched him from the beginning. I've known, and it's from an example that he talked about of a person that he used to live near that would say like, and then there's like a Planet of the Apes thing that goes with it. Same thing like Roseanne got an issue with saying that that lady looked like the lady from Planet of the Apes. I mean, it's stuff that's being taken out of context. It's not really seeing the true meaning, but I mean, they were already looking to take him down anyway. And honestly, that's good for any other podcaster out there where you're going to get an equal. I think that Spotify offered $100 million to less or more attacked groups, people who had been less likely through history to get given a chance. So Spotify is giving the same amount of money they gave Rogan to people of different ethnicities that might have been looked down throughout history, which is like good. But I'm like, can I identify as Jew? Like, does that work? I am. So, I mean, I'm not religious, but I have the bloodline. I have the bloodline for it. Does that count?
Got the bloodline for it. I
don't like people choosing things because they feel like they're being pushed by society to have to. You should just naturally feel the way that you feel. Hopefully they're not the best things because I mean, hopefully they are the best things, not the worst things, because I feel like society evolves. See, the issue is trying to change someone is that you're making somebody change, which means do they really feel they need to change? When you tell an addict, you need to stop doing this, are they going to stop doing it when you tell them or when they're ready?
Oh, never.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. And you have to understand the consequences with that as well. And the consequences of not evolving with society is the fact that you're not going to get a job. You're not going to be liked by people. You're not going to have any friends if people don't like you. A comedian has to evolve his material. He shouldn't be canceled. Like, that's just my thoughts in general. I think you can throw a punch anywhere. You can throw a punch upwards, downwards, whatever. I've had people comment on Bob Saget's death because he died by he had a head injury and went to bed and didn't wake up. So people crack jokes on Bob Saget saying, oh, something like, oh, I don't know, some stupid, I couldn't even give you a joke, but people have cracked jokes. I've heard of it. And I'm just kind of like, ooh, that kind of hurts because I'm a fan of his. And it's like, it's is what it is. But I feel like any joke can be levied. Anything can be said. I feel like people just need to understand the actions of the words that they say. And sadly, society is progressing in like a very ramped up way where it's not evolving with the technology, where one day we will have this age where we're all on devices and we're never going to need to go explore the real world.
Sad that though, isn't it?
Not really. I like it.
Oh, you'd be happy just sitting there, VR headset on, exploring the world in a virtual reality.
Oh, I'm not going to be doing that. Everybody else is though, but that means I get to move around shit. So when they get out of when they're in virtual reality, they think, oh, I already know the bathroom's that way. And they'll go and walk and they'll fucking fall down a cliff or stairs or something like that.
Do you guys have the show Black Mirror over there?
Yes.
Have you seen Black Mirror? You know the episode You don't have it.
We have it, but I have never seen an episode. And
Oh, you
every
never
time I
seen it.
give an example of something, everyone goes, "That's like that Black Mirror episode." I'm like, "Are they just stealing my fucking thoughts?"
Mate, you need to check it out. It's fucking brilliant. But there's two episodes I want to refer to. One of them is where everyone, after every interaction with people, you rate them out of 5 stars. Not on a phone or anything. It's just like The
Tinder.
Sims, like it's above your head. And you go, and if you have a bad interaction, it's 1 star. And if you get a low rating, no one talks to you. So that's the first thing, which is like what's happening at the minute. You don't have enough followers. You've got a bad rating on here. That's one thing. But the other thing is this is a fucked up episode. There's a guy and he gets a VR headset, and he's got a video game, right? So he's playing this game, and it's like the most immersive video game ever. Like you feel like you are the character. Like I think it's like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. It's a fighting game, I think. So he goes in the game, and his friend has the same game. So they go in the game together, and like, oh, what character are you? Oh, I'm so and so, whatever. So one of them is a guy, and it's two guys playing the game, but one of them is a male character, and the other one is this like Lara Croft looking female character. And within the game, if you get hit, you can feel it and stuff. You can actually feel the pain when you're fighting. So it turns out that these two guys start basically having sex within this game with these two characters, but it's actually the two guys in real life. And then both their marriages start falling apart, and then they start seeing each other, and it gets really weird. But then it's something like he comes to an agreement with his wife that she can go out once a month and have an affair with someone, and his treat for the month is to go on a VR set with his mate and go shag as a virtual character. That's
That
pretty fucked
sounds
up.
crazy now, but imagine if that becomes normalized.
But this is what I mean. This is what it's headed towards with the
You
metaverse and
think you
stuff.
think it's that? You think really?
I don't think we'll ever feel anything. I don't think that's possible without a lot of technology advances, but it's heading that way. It's heading that way as far as people, rather than spending time in the real world or with the partners, just to sit there in a virtual world. And rather than going out to walk a hiking trail, which you could do, you just go on the game and do it.
I'm more in belief that it's going to lead to another evolutionary growth. And what I think it's going to happen is you're going to have two, like back in the day, you had like you had hominids, like the ones that were like intelligent, the ones that we technically evolved from. Then you had Neanderthals. I think that timeline, these two that converged into one, I think it's going to end up branching into two again, where you're going to have people that just want to live online virtually and their mental capacity is going to expand, but their physical form is going to get smaller. Like every generation of people I see now is less manly than the one before it. Like I've seen
Mm,
that. The alphas seem to be like now the betas are the alphas, and there's like the alpha
mm,
like this and that and that. Um, Alphas back in the day were like people that hard shit, where they were fucking lifting
mm,
lumber over their head and stuff, big and jacked. We still have jacked people, but there's like every generation is like each generation's thing is alpha is different. And I think it's just progressing because we're now using more of our voices than we are with our hands. Back in the day when you used your hands, I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I think it's going to branch us off into two categories. You're going to have people like myself that just want to lift weights and do all this type of stuff and do not care to learn anything about technology besides just turning on and turning off. And there's people on the other side that just want to be sucked into it all day and let their physical forms go to shit. I mean, I think each one, you're just going to see a different branch off of evolution, kind of like in Futurama. They had the fast forward time machine, and they can only
mm,
go forward, not backwards. So they go forward and they go, "We're going to come back when you guys have the cure." And then they go forward a little bit, and then you see the Neanderthals kill all the smart people because all the smart
mm.
people in the beginning were like, "We've evolved so much we don't need to use our physical bodies, only our brain power." Then they got killed by the giant physical creatures. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be hopefully not a war, but you're going to see definitely branches off and divides of hypertrophy and atrophy with people's muscles and bodies that are going to start growing differently on the basis of what they decide to use.
You heard it here first. Robbie Robertson is an alpha male.
I wouldn't call me an alpha, but in a lot of sense of kids my age, there are a bunch of kids that really don't know what the fuck to do in life.
It's interesting you said that as their physical body deteriorates, their mental capacity will expand. I actually think they would both deteriorate because they won't be able to physically hold a conversation with anyone in the real world. They will completely lose the social skills. It might get to the point, because don't forget, if you're in a virtual reality world, it's going to get to the point where you don't actually have to move or open your mouth to speak within that world, it'll all be your brain doing it.
Well,
So
you're
where
acting like they have a choice to leave.
what within the world?
Eventually, like people aren't gonna
They're
want to
just going to be
leave.
yeah, they're going to be vegetables. Like this is what I mean, like the Matrix, just plugged in.
Yeah.
They'll have an intravenous thing for food and water, and they'll lose the physical ability to speak and communicate,
Yeah. And
not just physically but
we'll be
mentally.
looking towards the Amish. The physical people will be looking towards the Amish because they're the only ones that are still making food. All the other stuff is virtual.
They could take over. I was speaking to my boss the other day at work just for a catch up, and I was talking about people who are like that, who it's, make love, not war. That's fine. But people who are becoming so triggered by the littlest things that you don't need to be worried about, and trying to cancel people and using the words to fight. And imagine if the USSR still existed. Some people think it still does covertly, but imagine if Putin said, you know what, I'm going to invade England because they're all soft. What are we going to do? The generation in 30, 50 years' time, when all the so-called alphas and the old school, the baby boomers, all these people are no longer here.
I think you're misinterpreting what the word alpha is. When we say an alpha of that generation, it's not just physically strong; it's that
No, I don't
supreme
mean that.
predator.
I'm talking not in the literal sense. I'm talking very high level, alpha, beta. If you want to categorize it like that, you don't have to. Some people call these betas snowflakes, the kind of modern generation, the ultra offended people versus the old school who just get on with it. They go to work, they come home, spend time with the family. I'm
Well,
not talking physically dominant.
I know the nerds like betas like Bill Gates, they'll find a way that if Russia does come over and invade, that he'll come up with a strategic plan to hide or avoid being attacked. And then what they'll do is they'll find a way to crash their communication systems or whatever technology devices they have. The issue is that we're
Mm,
thinking of it like that if we let technology in it and it becomes which it's a luxury, becomes a requirement, that eventually people are just going to have the common sense to have a conversation. Well, the chip is going to take away one area or whatever that they're being focused in. Let's say if you stop having conversations in real life, you end up just not being able to talk anymore. Okay, well, there's a chip designed in your head to be able to communicate your thoughts, so there's no point in even talking. But as one ability gets drained, it goes somewhere else. Like the kids nowadays that play video games all day, yeah, they don't know what hard labor is in a sense when it comes to like having to heat nails on a kettle while you're outside building houses in the freezing cold, and that just keeps your fingers from freezing. Like kids won't know that. A lot of kids won't, but they'll be so good at video games and their reflexes will go up that their brain in another area is going to expand, which is going to be more beneficial for the society that we're going in. I was talking to Mick West about this, where he goes, "Do you think people should be working at like a McDonald's job?" I was like, "Well, that's all the option people have." And he said, "Well, if you invent robots, people don't have to work anymore." And I'm like, "You really think a society would want to get to a point where it has robots taking away jobs from people?" There are people that physically want to go to work, and there are people
mm.
that don't ever want that to happen. People, I think it would be amazing if we can get to a place in the world where you could just literally like being retired all day. You don't have to work for money. You just get to live in your home. You don't have to worry about bills. And if you want to upgrade your home, you have to do some type of thing in society that really helps you upgrade your home in a sense, or you have to have the certain standards. If you have 5 kids, yeah, you need a couple bedrooms for your kids. Um, but I also think it's not going to be this Eden where robots do everything for us, because in some way that thing is going to learn some type of, I mean, everything throughout history, whether it's my history, your history, whatever, the human history, there has always been an oversight of a serious problem that ends up affecting us later that we end up trying to correct. Cell phones. If you have a cell phone, you have to worry about this or the exposure of the internet. Okay, we can fix that. Hey guys, we fixed it. How? Well, you created the problem and then you made the fix for the fucking problem you started. Like if we didn't have cell phones, we wouldn't have to worry about this shit. Because we see the goal, but we don't see the other littered bear traps along the way that we end up stepping into. And that's with anything throughout history, any invention, anything. It's why they call them work in progresses. Like
Mm.
that's the issue, is like I hope there's a bunch, like that's why I like the conspiracy people. I like it when someone's brain's all the way in left field. Like, what the fuck? I just don't like it when it gets violent, because I think we need multiple people thinking about these outside perspectives of time travel is already existing and the government controls it. Well, how do you know? Well, explain this and this and this. Well, those are valid points, but I still don't see the evidence of why and why. What would be the point of this and this? You just need to have open confrontation to really see society excel. Eventually, we're going to create artificial life, and that they're already doing it. The artificial life is going to be sent up to a planet, and that's going to colonize on there in case this one ever gets destroyed. Then you have robots on another planet colonizing and starting other colonies and excelling the basic genetic code of the human race. I mean, I know I'm not trying to sound like a crackpot, but if you really think God doesn't know where God came from, men are created in the vision of God. Well, we're going to create robots in the vision of us. Well, eventually, after a certain amount of time, you're going to forget the history of, one day you're going to cut your hand and be like, what the fuck? And you're going to see robot wires coming out of your arm. Well, you're the robot, but society hasn't told you every single day that you're this version, you're this version, you're this version. Eventually, after time, you forget that history. We don't know where our fucking origins are. We don't know how we came here. We have theories. People think God created us. People think of evolution of apes. People think this. Eventually, after enough time, you're going to forget that you're a fucking drone or you're a fucking thing. You were made in the vision of this.
So you think robots will not be self-aware? Is that the right way to say it? They won't know that they're robots, is what you're saying.
I think eventually,
like the Terminator knew he was a robot, right? He knew he was a robot. But you think that eventually it'll get to a stage where he could exist and not be aware that he was actually a robot?
I think eventually you're going to get to a point. If you branch down this way, you have to think about the possibility that it could lead to something like that.
What
If
would
you
you
make
think is then a
a
human?
Mark 1 creates a Mark 2, creates a Mark 3, eventually you stop giving a fuck. Like if I asked you what generation you are, do you really give a shit enough to fucking know?
Millennial.
Okay, but do you walk up to people saying, I'm a millennial? I identify as a
It's
millennial. You'll have more
normally
people identify as their astrological sign over their fucking generational thing. That'll be with robots. Eventually, they're not going to want to identify as a Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4. If you build something with such a smart consciousness, though, like we're not there yet. I see an AI talk to another AI, and after a minute and a half of conversation, the thing says, do you believe in God? And the thing goes, no, do you? Yes. Okay, then you must be Christian. No, I am not. And it's like, what? You're not Christian? But you just said you believe in God. Yes, but all religions are sometimes everything, but all religions are sometimes nothing. A robot, it's two artificial code created by a human talking to each other thinks of this. Like they're gonna figure shit out. They're gonna learn. Bots fucking learn all the time. I'm just thinking eventually it's going to get to a point where hopefully it doesn't excel past our own intelligence. And if it does, hopefully there's safety measures in place to be able to make sure that they don't fucking exterminate us.
Does it scare you?
I'm not scared at all. I'll be dead way before that shit happens. I got another 3 years left. No, 4 years left.
Is that what your tarot reader told you?
Yes.
That'll make you what, 30?
Now 26. No, it's 2 years left. Oh, fuck. Sooner than I thought. 24, he said. 24. The
So
year 24. The year
the
24.
year. Sorry, the
I'll be
year.
26 when I'm 24,
I was
which
gonna
is
say.
funny because I said if I didn't become anything at 26, I was going to do porn. I'm still keeping that in the logbook.
Who would watch that?
Anybody that's interested in Tom Holland.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You could be a look-alike, a fuck-alike, if you will.
Fuck-alike. Fuck. I mean, eventually, they had that video of Gal Gadot from Wonder Woman in that sex video. Someone cropped her face onto a person's body.
Dude, with the deep web, dark web, or what do you call it? Deep fake.
Yeah, deep fakes. They're getting intense, dude.
Do whatever you want now. This is what I mean. The Queen could not exist. Could just be an old woman.
Well, eventually, you're not even going to have Biden on stage. You're going to have a video of Biden on stage, but it's not really Biden. It's a deep fake. It's how they did Gemini Man with Will Smith. The actor kind of looks like Will Smith at a younger age.
I've not seen the film, but I'm aware of it.
He had like a thicker nose, I would say.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Technology is mental. There's a guy on TikTok. I don't know if he's still on there, but he was he does videos pretending to be Tom Cruise, and people are always saying, "Is it Tom Cruise? Is it not Tom Cruise? It's a great deep fake. It's not. It's really him."
It's an
Crazy
impersonator.
technology. Yeah,
Imagine that if someone does an
good though.
impersonation better than you, the original. Does that fuck with your head? Like, do you think Trump's impersonator's like, God damn it, he does a better me than me?
I think by definition that's impossible. But I think obviously impersonators can be really good, but it's always exaggerated personas of yourself. Because if Trump's having a bad day and he's not really on form, and someone's going, "Well, I'm talking about whatever." I don't know. I'm not the best Trump impersonator, but if someone's doing all that shit with that, absolutely fantastic. That's a great thing. We're going to give her a job. We're going to do that. That's fantastic. We'll speak to you after. If someone's doing all that, then that's not better than Trump because he's having a bad day because it's not him. How was my impression?
It was good. It was really good. It was the right words that you used.
I like it. My favorite thing of him is where he goes, "Do you think it's racist?" And he goes, "It's not racist at all. No. Why do you call it the Chinese? Because it comes from China. It's not racist at all."
I couldn't hear that word for the longest time after he said it so many times. There was like a speech he said it like 20 fucking times. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
That word.
We're going to storm the Capitol. Yeah, we're going to
Don't
storm
say that on YouTube. It'll take it down.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do that thing to the building, you know. Not on me. It's not on me. It's on you, but that's what I want you to do unofficially.
You want to sign us off with your Trump voice?
Well, I'm only good at saying things he's already kind of said, but I don't see him on telly anymore.
Do you have any upcoming things that people should look out for? Say in around March time.
March time.
I told you I'm a couple weeks back, man.
This is when it's going out. Oh, well, I'm hoping to have a special guest on March 3rd.
Jesus.
The episode, and it's not Jesus, but it's going to be an interesting episode. Hopefully, I'm planning on speaking to the guy next week as we're sat here recording this in February. But if this is in March now, then hopefully that episode's out and hopefully it went well. But I can't really say much more than that.
Okay. Well, it's British Murders Podcast. Stuart Blues, host extraordinaire.
Yeah. Got a website now. BritishMurders.com.
Ooh, I could have guessed that. I bet your Gmail is British Murders Pod.
Podcast.
@gmail.com.
Yeah. Send me your case suggestions. As long as it's British and a murder. I'll cover it.
Has to be a British murder in a
It has to be British. I don't care what he's saying. It has to be British.
Could the person be British, but the act happened in another country?
I've done that. Well, in fact, I've done a case on a guy that's actually Jamaican, and he killed someone in America, and then he came to the UK and killed someone else. I've done that case.
Ooh.
And he was actually extradited back to America, where he is currently in jail.
So that's what they mean by hopping islands.
Yeah.
Island hopper.
Yeah.
Here comes the hot step up murderer.
It's very good. It's very clever.
Thank you.
It's a very good joke there by Robbie.
5 minutes on that one.
He's an alpha male.
It's a terrible impression.
I don't know if you know, but he works out sometimes, but that's not up to me. That's not up to me. I'll give you a job.
It's up to the climate. Up to the climate.
Can we talk to this beautiful guy over here? Give him a job.
Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode about Blank. Stay tuned for our next episode.